What if someone walked into a bank and promised to double your money using magic? Sounds ridiculous, right? But this isn't a fairy tale. It's a real event that shook Dubai in the 1990s. It all began when a mysterious African man arrived at one of Dubai's largest banks. He didn't bring weapons and he wasn't a tech genius. Instead, he used something far more unsettling: his charm, clever tricks, and an air of mystery that left people spellbound. His goal? To walk away with millions of dollars. He wove an intricate story, performed hypnotic acts, and hinted at supernatural powers. His theatrics convinced the bank's top officials to trust him with an unimaginable fortune. By the time they realized the truth, $242 million was gone, and so was he. Curious to know how he pulled it off? Stay tuned. The year was 1995, and Dubai was a city on the rise. Skyscrapers were reaching for the heavens, the economy was booming, and opportunities seemed endless for those bold enough to seize them. Amid this wave of prosperity, a man named Foutanga Babani Sissoko arrived from Mali on a business visa. He was no ordinary traveler. His audacity would soon make headlines. Sissoko wasted no time. He walked into the Dubai Islamic Bank, one of the city's largest financial institutions, and demanded to meet the bank manager, Mohammed Ayub. No appointment, no prior notice, just sheer confidence. The bank staff were taken aback. It wasn't normal for someone to stroll in and insist on meeting the manager. But Sissoko's persistence paid off, and he was granted an audience with Ayub. When they met, Sissoko requested a car loan. It was an odd request for a man who had just arrived in Dubai and had no job or income to show. Normally, such a request would be dismissed outright, but Sissoko had a way with words, or perhaps something more. Somehow, he convinced Ayub to approve the loan without any collateral. After the paperwork was done, Sissoko expressed his gratitude and extended an unusual invitation: dinner at his apartment. Ayub hesitated. It wasn't every day that a bank manager dined with a stranger, let alone one who had just secured an unconventional loan. But Sissoko promised something extraordinary, an experience unlike anything Ayub had ever seen. Intrigued, Ayub eventually accepted. That evening, Ayub arrived at Sissoko's apartment. The atmosphere was warm and welcoming at first. After some casual conversation, Sissoko led Ayub into a dimly lit room filled with smoke and peculiar objects. The space felt otherworldly, like stepping into a scene from a mysterious tale. Sissoko then revealed his true claim. He was a sorcerer, capable of doubling any amount of money with the help of a jinn. The bank manager listened intently, his curiosity piqued. To demonstrate, Sissoko asked Ayub to provide some money for a test. Ayub, unsure but intrigued, called a relative to deliver 100,000 dirhams, about $25,000. When the money arrived, Sissoko invited Ayub into the smoky room, which resembled a sorcerer's lair. In the center of the room, Sissoko sat with the cash in front of him, while Ayub stood, watching. Music began to play softly in the background, and Sissoko threw a powdery substance into the air, thickening the smoke. He chanted in an unfamiliar language, his body swaying as if in a trance. Then the lights suddenly went out. The room plunged into darkness, and a loud noise echoed from another part of the apartment. Moments later, a man burst into the room, screaming about a jinn attack. Ayub stood frozen, unsure of what was happening. Sissoko, calm and composed, laughed softly. "Don't worry," he said. The strange ritual had only just begun. Ayub sat in the dimly lit apartment, his heart racing after what he had just witnessed. Sissoko, the man who claimed he could double money, looked calm as he explained the situation. He assured Ayub that strange occurrences were normal during the process, but hinted that the presence of a jinn might not be comfortable with Ayub's energy. He advised him to step outside and wait while the ritual was completed. Confused and scared, Ayub didn't argue. He stepped outside the apartment, unsure of what was happening. As he stood there, he began hearing strange sounds: music, loud bangs, and even what sounded like thunder, all coming from inside. The eerie noises sent chills down his spine. Then, after what felt like hours, everything went silent. The door creaked open, and Sissoko invited him back inside. The room was still filled with smoke, But Auyu's attention immediately fell on the table. There it was, a pile of cash that hadn't been there before. Sissoko pointed at it with a grin. "Here's your money, doubled," he said confidently. Auyu hesitated but moved closer to the table, his hands trembling. He had given Sissoko 100,000 dirhams earlier. Now, sitting in front of him was 200,000 dirhams, exactly double the amount. He picked up the money, examining it carefully. It was real. Every dirham was accounted for. In that moment, Auyu was completely convinced. Sissoko wasn't just making promises. He seemed to have delivered. Auyu, a bank manager, believed he had just witnessed real magic. This conviction led him down a dangerous path. He began transferring larger sums of money to Sissoko, thinking he had found a shortcut to wealth. He even opened a special account for Sissoko at the bank and funneled millions of the bank's funds into it, expecting the money to come back doubled each time. But it never did. Despite the grand promises, the millions transferred never returned. Auyu had fallen for an elaborate scam, one that preyed on his trust and greed. By the time he realized the truth, the damage was irreversible. His belief in Sissoko's magic had led him to ruin, and the once trusted bank manager was left grappling with the devastating consequences of his actions. From 1995 to 1998, a series of events unfolded that left many baffled. A bank manager executed an astonishing 183 money transfers to accounts linked to Sissoko, a man who claimed to have extraordinary powers. These transfers weren't just local. They spanned across countries like the United States, Switzerland, and France. By the end, the total amount transferred had reached an unimaginable $242 million. The question that continues to puzzle many is why the bank manager, despite receiving no return on the promised, doubled funds, continued these transactions. Some believe that Sissoko might have wielded some sort of magical influence, clouding the manager's judgment. Others speculate that fear might have driven his actions. Maybe he believed Sissoko truly had supernatural powers and worried about his own safety or that of his family if he refused to comply. Another theory is that Sissoko had something incriminating on the manager, possibly blackmailing him into submission. What's even more astonishing is how such massive sums of money could be withdrawn over 3 years without anyone noticing. Even if the manager held the highest authority in the bank, weren't there accountants or audits in place? This aspect of the story remains a mystery. Perhaps banking operations in the 1990s were less sophisticated, or the systems were not advanced enough to catch such discrepancies. With the money flowing into his accounts, Sissoko left Dubai and returned to his home country, Mali. There, he lived lavishly, showering his village with gifts, money, and projects that uplifted the local economy. He became a beloved figure, seen as a savior by the villagers. After several months in Mali, Sissoko moved to New York in early 1996, continuing to receive millions through bank transfers. In New York, Sissoko opened an account with Citibank, one of the largest American banks. Using his wealth as leverage, he married a female bank employee, despite already having multiple wives in Africa and Europe. This marriage was more strategic than romantic. It helped him transfer large sums of money seamlessly. With his new wife's assistance, Sissoko successfully moved over $100 million from his Dubai account to the United States. As a token of gratitude, he gifted her $500,000 and continued to spend generously on her. This arrangement did not go unnoticed. In 1999, the Dubai Islamic Bank filed a lawsuit against Citibank in the United States, accusing the bank of facilitating money laundering involving Sissoko and 3 of its employees, including his wife. While the legal battles brewed, Sissoko was living a life of unparalleled luxury. He bought everything he desired, from private planes to extravagant properties. His ambitions led him to establish an airline named after his village, Dabia Airlines. He purchased a small private jet and 2 Boeing 727s. However, the airline never took off as planned, with the planes mostly parked at airports. Despite his indulgent lifestyle, Sissoko never forgot his roots. He remained deeply connected to his village, using his wealth to build hospitals, clinics, and other infrastructure. When he visited, the villagers greeted him like royalty, showering him with flowers and praise. He, in turn, distributed his wealth generously, solidifying his status as a hero among his people. However, His luck began to run out in July 1996, when he attempted to purchase 2 decommissioned military helicopters from the U.S. government. He claimed the helicopters were for humanitarian purposes, intended to serve as air ambulances for his village. But the U.S. government was suspicious. They feared the helicopters might be used for illegal activities, such as drug trafficking or arming rebel groups in Mali. These suspicions led to the U.S. stalling the sale and ultimately issuing an international warrant for Sissoko's arrest through Interpol. What started as a tale of manipulation and wealth had now escalated into a global scandal. Sissoko, once a mysterious figure admired by his people, was now a wanted man, and the empire he built on deception was beginning to crumble. Sissoko's dramatic arrest in Geneva marked the beginning of yet another twist in his already unbelievable story. Detained in a Swiss prison, he awaited extradition to the United States to face bribery charges tied to incidents in Miami. But even behind bars, Sissoko's influence was apparent. He quickly secured the services of a high-profile American lawyer, Thomas Spencer, to lead his defense. During one of Spencer's visits to the Swiss prison, something unusual happened. The prison director approached him with a strange request to delay Sissoko's extradition for as long as possible. When Spencer asked why, the director revealed a surprising reason. Sissoko was arranging for luxurious meals to be flown in from Paris every night. These meals had turned the prison into an almost celebratory environment for the staff, who didn't want this unexpected perk to end. Eventually, Sissoko was extradited to the United States, where the legal battle began. The charges he faced were directly tied to the Miami bribery case, but investigators suspected there was far more to his activities than met the eye. Spencer's first move was to request a bail hearing to secure Sissoko's release while awaiting trial. However, the U.S. government and prosecutors strongly opposed bail, fearing that a man with Sissoko's resources and connections could easily flee. But Sissoko's wealth and influence proved formidable. He managed to gather significant support, using his connections with diplomats and other high-profile figures to build a defense. His lawyer presented these individuals as character witnesses, painting Sissoko as a respected man unlikely to run. Under immense pressure, the judge set a staggering bail amount of $20 million, thinking it would be impossible for Sissoko to pay. Once again, Sissoko shocked everyone. He agreed to the bail amount and promptly paid it. After his release, Sissoko wasted no time showing his gratitude to his legal team. In a jaw-dropping gesture, he gifted his lawyers 7 luxury cars, a move that left them stunned. It wasn't just a thank you, it was a statement of his wealth and power. But the surprises didn't stop there. Even with his trial looming, Sissoko began a wild spending spree in Miami. In one visit to a jewelry store, he spent $500,000. He bought 2 to 4 cars weekly and, in typical extravagant fashion, married over 10 women, renting more than 20 apartments, each for a different wife. Meanwhile, the mysterious bank manager in Dubai continued transferring money to Sissoko's accounts. Sissoko held credit cards from the bank with no spending limits, and any debts he incurred were mysteriously erased. It was as if the manager, Uyu, was still under Sissoko's spell, or perhaps gripped by fear. The real reasons for his continued cooperation remain an unsolved mystery. Despite his lavish lifestyle, Sissoko knew the importance of maintaining a positive public image. To soften perceptions and bolster his reputation, he turned to philanthropy. He visited poor neighborhoods, donating food and clothing to the homeless. These charitable acts didn't go unnoticed by the media, who documented them as evidence of his generosity. In one particularly grand gesture, he donated $300,000 to a school music band that needed funding to travel to New York for the Thanksgiving Day parade, far more than they had requested. These acts painted him as a man of the people, even as his trial and the murky details of his financial dealings loomed over him. Sissoko's story in Miami was one of excess, manipulation, and intrigue. He managed to turn every situation to his advantage, blurring the lines between generosity and extravagance, innocence and guilt. The question of how he maintained such influence and control remains a puzzle, leaving observers to wonder if his charm, wealth, or something more sinister was at play. The tale of Foutanga Babani Sissoko's audacious exploits was bound to unravel eventually. In March 1998, cracks began to show. Some of the Dubai Islamic Bank's accountants noticed irregularities in the records and started asking questions. Suspicion grew, and the pressure mounted on Mohammed Ayu, the bank manager who had authorized the staggering transfers. For months, Sissoko had been unreachable, leaving Ayu isolated and burdened with the weight of his secret. Overwhelmed and unable to cope, Ayu confided in a trusted colleague. His confession was both shocking and surreal. He admitted to transferring a total of 890 million dirhams, $242 million, to Sissoko, believing the man to be a sorcerer. Ashamed and unable to explain his actions logically, Ayu wrote down the exact amount he had sent. It was a moment of deep humiliation and confusion for a man once entrusted with the bank's finances. Meanwhile, Dubai Islamic Bank hired lawyers in the United States to trace the missing funds. Their investigation revealed something even more bizarre. Neither Ayu nor his associates had personally benefited from the transfers. Every dirham had gone to Sissoko. This discovery left investigators puzzled. Why would a seasoned bank manager transfer such vast sums to someone without any apparent personal gain? The mystery only deepened. By this time, Sissoko was a wanted man. Interpol issued an arrest warrant, making it dangerous for him to travel internationally. To shield himself further, he stayed in Mali, a country with no extradition agreements. But Sissoko didn't stop there. In 2002, riding on his popularity, he ran for a seat in parliament and won. His new status as a member of the Malian parliament granted him diplomatic immunity, a move he believed would protect him even if he dared to venture outside Mali. For a while, Sissoko continued to live large, but his extravagant lifestyle eventually caught up with him. His fortune dwindled, his popularity faded, and by 2014, he lost his parliamentary seat and the immunity that came with it. No longer the untouchable figure he once was, Sissoko retreated to his remote village, Dabia, where he would spend the rest of his life. In 2018, a BBC journalist tracked him down and managed to secure an interview, the only one Sissoko ever gave. The world hoped for answers, but Sissoko remained as enigmatic as ever. He spoke little and dodged questions about the infamous Dubai Islamic Bank case. When pressed about the $242 million, he laughed, claiming he had simply spent it all. As for the accusations of using magic to manipulate you, Sissoko dismissed them with a smirk, saying, "If I were a wizard, why would I need to rob a bank?" Instead, he provocatively suggested that the bank should explain how such a colossal amount disappeared under their watch. One of the most telling moments in the interview came when Sissoko reflected on money. "One can never have enough," he said. "Today you spend 10 million, tomorrow you want 20, and the next day 40. Money is insatiable." It was a glimpse into the mind of a man who had tasted extraordinary wealth and watched it slip through his fingers. Despite the mystery surrounding his life, one fact remained clear. Sissoko was never held accountable for his actions. He lived out his days in relative obscurity, in the same village where he once landed planes and handed out cash to adoring crowds. In 2021, Sissoko passed away, taking the full truth of his exploits to the grave. And so ends the story of Foutanga Babani Sissoko, a man who rose from obscurity to international infamy, using charm, manipulation, and audacity to achieve what most would deem impossible. His tale is a blend of greed, gullibility, and unanswered questions, a reminder of the lengths people will go for power and wealth, and how easily illusions can shatter. What do you think about this incredible story? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's hear your take.